This is Digging Deeper with At the Coalface, and this week's episode is proudly brought to you by the Mining and Energy Union, the union for coal industry workers standing up for better pay conditions and safety. And here's your host, Jessica Rouse.
Now, in the June edition of At the Coalface, you would have come across a story about the Pike River film. Now, this is a film about the disaster in New Zealand that devastated the mining community. It left 29 men dead, but it's also about everything that came after and the fight that is still ongoing. Daniel Rockhouse was at Pike River at the time of the explosion in 2010 and was one of only two men to survive. He lost his brother and 28 fellow miners. Daniel moved across the ditch to Queensland and still works underground to this day at Ensham Mine, and he joins us on this episode of Digging Deeper. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Good to be here.
I can't thank you enough for joining us on this episode. As I said, we had a chat to yourself and your mum and Anna for the last edition of the magazine in June, but there's just so much to talk about around Pike River, and I want you to take us back to 2010. How long had you been working in the industry, and sort of what got you into mining to start with?
I started in the industry in 2008, had obviously no experience, and I got my job through how a lot of people get their jobs in the industry, through family, through connections, and so when the whole Pike incident happened, I'd probably not quite had 3 years experience. So, I was very, very new to the industry and I was very green. So it was all I knew at the time. So, yeah.
And you were an operator from the get-go when you went?
Yeah, pretty much thrown into it, thrown in the deep end, and like sink or swim type scenario. And it was just learn as you go. It had its challenges. It was a bit of a wake up call, but I still remember the first time I ever went underground just for a look, as fresh as can be. I might have been on site maybe a couple of days, if that. The first time I went underground, and it's not for everybody, but I was fascinated by it. It was just something about it. It may sound strange to some people, like the feeling, the smells, like the sights. Yeah. It was odd, but it really spun my wheels. I don't know why. It was like I just knew that this was going to be me. I was going to make a career out of this. So yeah.
It's like a whole other world. Like, I've been underground a couple of times, and you're right. It's fascinating.
Yeah. That's what I love about it. It's something different. Like it's like construction work underground, pretty much. It's machine operating underground. Like a lot of people do it on surface, but it's the types of machinery, the type of work that you do underground. But it's just the fact that you work underground. It's like a specialized sort of trade, so to speak. And I don't know. I like talking about it and putting all the tragedy things aside. It's people are interested in it, like it's that when you say that you're an underground coal miner, they most always go, oh, really? And they're quite interested, and they ask more questions just generally, and it's I like talking about it, and I'm proud to be a coal miner. So
yeah. And I guess, for want of a better word, it's the vibe and the camaraderie and all of that sort of stuff underground as well.
Yeah, definitely. Camaraderie is a massive thing. A lot of people, obviously, since the things that have happened to me in the industry, they ask, all right, you want to work in the industry, but why don't you work on the surface? Why don't you work in the open cut? And no offense to anybody that works in the open cut, but it's a different kettle of fish. And it's I've never done it personally, but it's something different underground. You're working with a group of people, and you sort of bond fairly closely, or you need to bond fairly closely with those people to sort of make it work and make it enjoyable enough, so that you keep coming back. It has many challenges, physically and mentally, but it's something about working with a good bunch of people that really keeps the juices flowing. It's sort of like, it makes it really good. you lean on each other and you work together and work as a team. You need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So take us to November 19, 2010 at Pike River, the disaster. I guess, the day would have started out like any other shift.
Yeah, it did. It's I couldn't give you an exact time frame, but the rosters changed maybe 6 months beforehand. We used to do like a rotating roster of they call it the lifestyle roster over here, where you do 4-5-5-4.
Yeah.
And I'm meaning 4 days on, 5 days off, 5 days on, 4 days off. But they changed it to Monday to Friday with but shorter shifts. I can't remember the reasoning for it, but it was so it was a Friday that it all happened. Is my point. It was the last shift of the week. They normally did maintenance and stuff on the weekends, and there was no night shift on the Friday. So I came in for afternoon shift. It was literally the last production shift for the week, and it was just, as far as I can remember, it was just like a normal shift. We had our little pre-start meeting and. On surface, we got all their gear on and had a bit of a chat, and then we went underground to do what's called a hot seat changeover with the other crew. And when we got underground, they were just getting ready. The contractors that were doing all the stone drivage and that, McConnell Dow, were just about getting ready to do a blast. So we got up to, or my crew got up to what's called the crib room or the lunchroom, so to speak. And pretty much we had to come back out to a certain point so they could shot fire. So we're all like sort of bunched together, just chatting while they did their thing. Obviously the off-coming crew ended up leaving. And our crews stayed on, and that part in particular is important to me because that's actually, because we were bunched together. I had an opportunity to actually speak to my brother because he was part of the drilling crew, doing inseam drilling and gas drainage and stuff, and so like he would work at a separate part of the mine. I might bump into him from time to time and that, but like at that particular point we were bunched together and we just had a bit of a yarn, and he was finishing a few hours earlier than me, and I just quick sort of taking the mickey out of each other as you do as brothers, and just making funnies in front of people, and we talked about going to the pub together later. And I said that I'd meet you there when I finish shift, and that was pretty much the last time I spoke to him. So and once they shot fire, we went back to our work areas, and I can keep going, it's a bit of a journey, so hold on. And this is just all from my memory. I'm not saying this is exactly what happened, and this is just what I can remember in bits and pieces. So we got back up to my work area. My brother went his way. I went my way with my crew, and time frame I couldn't give you an exact amount, but they did get to a point where we were like carrying all the gear up towards the miner by hand, because the loader was in pretty poor condition, and the roads were in pretty poor condition, and so my deputy Dan Herc turned around to me and said to me, can you jump on the loader? He picked me out of like a group of about seven or so blokes. His reasoning for it was I was one of the more experienced guys, believe it or not. That wasn't that was there at the time. It was just like lucky, and he just said, "Oh, Rocky. Rocky's my nickname. Everyone calls me Rocky." So, Rocky, jump on the loader and go out and go grab some ballast, some stone to clean the road up, so we can use the machine to, instead of manually handling everything, so that we can use the machine to bring all the gear up. And so that's what I did. That's that job ultimately saved my life. He unknowingly saved my life by giving me that job, And I've actually told that to his old man, and it's just it really got him in the feels, and it was, I think about that all the time. He didn't know that was going to ultimately keep me alive, and neither did I. But it's just a lot of people don't realise my process of like making my way out to where I was when it blew up. There was a lot of like things that stopped me on the way, and I had to go back and forth and things like that. And all while I was doing this was a ticking time bomb in the background,
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if it was meant to be or something like that, but it just all the stars aligned, so to speak. And I was where I was at the time, and when it blew up, and so it's pretty strange. I think about that quite a bit. So
Yeah. When it did blow up, what did you feel? What did you hear? What was going on?
Yeah. As I was just saying, like, I made my way out, and I got blocked off by another loader,
Yeah.
Ricky Keane, one of the fellas that didn't make it. His loader was in the way. I couldn't get around him because it was a single entry. He was in the main roadway, and so I had to help him get his loader going so I could get past him.
Yeah.
So I had to go back into the mine, drive back out with some hydraulic oil to help him get his loader going. He got out of the way. Then I bumped into Conrad Adams, which was the acting under manager. He was a deputy, but he was just the under manager in question. Wasn't like my actual under manager wasn't there that day, and so he was like a step up. And he just asked me what I was doing. I told him, and he said, "I'll see you when you get back." And he was the last guy I spoke to of the guys that didn't make it. I made my way out to a location called Pit Bottom, and which is all in stone. It's out of the coal seam, and that's where I jumped out of my loader to fill my loader up, to service it, put some fuel and water in it, and I had enough time to get out of the loader. The loader stayed idling, and I took my earmuffs off my ears and put them back onto my helmet, and I went to go turn the tap on, and it exploded. The mine exploded. And it was like a pressure wave. It hit me almost instantly. The noise that the explosion made was something I've never heard before. It was the loudest thing I've ever heard. It was, I could only assume what a grenade would sound like in close quarters and confined space. Like my left ear went deaf for quite some time. I thought I'd blown my eardrums, or at least one of them. And it knocked me off my feet, and I hit my head. And then within a couple of seconds, I was engulfed with an atmosphere of like thick white dark smoke, and obviously dust and stuff like that. And I sort of moved into the cut through that I was in a little bit further, because it was like coming at me pretty quickly, and I was trying to sort of run to closer to where it might have been a little bit clearer. And I was shaking, and I was trying to get my rescue on. I'd been shown how to use this rescuer one time, and throughout the time that I've been there, and I panicked, and I didn't. I roughly knew how to use it enough to sort of get it going, but I was panicking so much, and I was at a point where I was engulfed in this atmosphere, and it had little to no oxygen in it, and I was breathed into the bag to activate it like you're meant to, and I tried to inhale onto the bag that's part of the self rescuer, and I sucked it inside out. It didn't have enough time to activate and do its thing, and I was at a point where I was out of air, so I discarded my rescue, and not really thinking. I was at a point of great disorientation, and panic and stress, and I discarded it, and I walked back into the roadway, and I was following a hose that was over the roof and coming down to the pipes that were on the other side, in the hope that I could like breathe off that airline that was there. And this is part where I can't remember whether I cracked that airline off the pipes before or after I collapsed, but I breathed the atmosphere in 2 to 3 times, and it burnt my throat, and well, I felt like it was burning my throat and my lungs, but it smelt and tasted like burning diesel and rubber, like a burning and diesel rubber fire, like the fumes you'd get off that.
Yeah.
And I pretty much collapsed, and this is all hearsay, but they estimate that I was possibly out, unconscious for up to 40 or so minutes, 45 minutes maybe.
Oh,
So yeah, and at that point, the way I can only describe it was a euphoric feeling. I was on this is just very patchy, even today. I remember sort of laying on the ground, being cold because I was in shock. I was obviously laying on muddy floor, and it was just like I couldn't feel anything from my neck down really. And I remember my heart pounding through my chest, and it just started slowing down. And it was just like I was. It was like I was out of body experience. I was watching this happen because there was literally nothing I could do to stop it, and it was just like I was waiting for my breathing, and my breathing got shallow and slower, and my heart slowed down. I could feel it just boom, 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 and it was just that's it. I'm ready. I'm about to die. I don't know what happened after that. I fully passed out. I lost all memory. And as I said, I don't know how long I was lying there for. It was like a dream. And after it blew up, from what I gather from the evidence that I've been given, the mine blew up and then started drawing natural ventilation back into the mine. And the way the mine was designed, it was all uphill, and so it pretty much acted like a chimney. And it drew all that atmosphere back towards me, and started to dilute the tunnel that I was in. And if I'd cracked that hose before I dropped, I feel like that maybe the residual air that was coming out of the airline might have diluted a small pocket around me as well, which probably helped. I ended up rolling onto my stomach and tried to do like a press up sort of motion, because and it was several attempts at doing this because I had no energy. I just had no power in my body. Eventually got to my feet, held onto those pipes, breathed onto that airline, and at that point I made my way went further into the mine a few meters because I knew there was a phone there, and I tried to make contact with the emergency number, and I called the emergency number, which was 555, and it rang 2 times, and I got an answering machine message, and yeah, would you believe it? It said, "Welcome to Pike River Coal. Sorry, can't take your call." I'll never forget it. I tell people that in my presentations, and they gasp, and it's not for dramatic effect. It actually happened.
Yeah, so, I've got nothing to say to that.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. So it was a couple of struggling profanities came out of my mouth after that, and I called the control room, and I got on the phone to the Crow, the control room officer, and he was in a panic state. He was doing his best to try and help me and ask the right questions, but then the phone was very swiftly taken off him by the mine manager on duty at the time, which was a man by the name of Doug White, and he was asking me some questions. What can you see? What happened? At first, the blast was so loud that I thought it was a contained incident around me. I didn't know initially that it had affected the whole mine.
Yeah.
Because it was so disorientating. I initially said to him that I thought my loader blew up.
Yeah.
But obviously it was a lot worse than that, but because after it sort of settled, my loader was struggling to run, but it was coughing and spluttering, but it was still running. And my initial thought was I jumped in the cab. Sorry, I forgot to say that. I jumped in the cab just before, and I turned it off just before it collapsed. It was going to shut down anyway. It wasn't going to do anything, but it was just, I don't know why I did that, but I did. And he said, look, don't worry about any of that. Just make your way out to the fresh air base. And there's, in the Royal Commission, there's, he said that he didn't say these things. I don't know if he's angry at me for saying these things in court or whatever, but like, that's what I remember him saying to me. And it's, I'm really not sure why I would lie about it. I wasn't trying to get him in trouble or anything like that. It was just, that's what I remember. And so he said, get to the fresh air base and try and make contact, because there's meant to be like emergency gear at this fresh air base, more rescuers and water, and that fresh air base, if it's running correctly, I mean, it's a point of refuge. You're meant to be able to go in there and like have fresh air running in there and sort of stay there and hopefully be rescued type scenario.
Yeah.
On my way out, and it was quite difficult at first because all I had to do was walk downhill, but it was so disorientating. It was still thick enough that I couldn't see in front of me. And I was doing these little baby steps to sort of until I could hold on to something.
Yeah.
And I walked not too far, maybe 100 or so meters, 150 meters, and I came across a loader that had no operator in it. And I thought that was very strange. And I crept past it. There wasn't a lot of room, but I crept past it. Had a bucket on it, and I managed to squeeze past it. And well, maybe it didn't have a bucket on it. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. I squeezed past the loader, and I got to the back of it, and the operator, Russell Smith, was at the back of it in a really bad way. Panic stations went in overdrive again. It was sort of like a re-injection of adrenaline. Like my heart was pumping pretty hard, but like then when I saw him, I was like, what do I do? So my initial reaction is to go over to him and ask him. I realized who it was, and I was like, Russell, are you okay? Can I help you? What's you all right? Can you get to your feet? And I sort of grabbed his head and pulled it back, and his eyes were rolling in the back of his head. He was like drooling and like he'd been like spitting up, and it wasn't a good way. He didn't talk to me. He didn't say anything back to me. He just sort of groaned. And so I tried to get his rescuer on him, and he just kept spitting it out of his mouth. He just wasn't having a bar of it. And at that point, I was just like trying to think on my feet. I discarded his rescuer, ripped all his gear off to sort of like excess weight. And I got in and I tried to pick him up, but I couldn't. So I got in behind him, and I got in under his arms, and I dragged him backwards a few hundred meters as I made my way out to that fresh air base. Couldn't give you an exact meterage, but it was a couple hundred meters. And then I propped him up on the roof or the wall, and to investigate this fresh air base. And I got to it, and the door had been blown open. I held my breath, and because it was full of gas. And I held my breath to sort of investigate it, and there was nothing in there. The fresh air base had been decommissioned. There was an out of service tag on the phone. Phone had been disconnected. The airline had been disconnected. There was no fresh rescuers or anything like that. It was like a container.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. I lost it, and I was like, "That's it. We're on our own. Got to keep going." So I came out and I said, "Russell, we're screwed here. We got to get out ourselves." He didn't at this point say anything. I said, "Can you get to your feet?" And again, he just sort of went like that. You know, there was no talking between us. Not until pretty much most of the way. I picked him up, put his arm around my shoulders, and I just held on to him like that, and just we made our way out, only stopping periodically to every time I saw an air outlet to turn it on to sort of get that residual air blowing in our faces to sort of clear the burning and sort of just have some reasonably fresh air to breathe on for a couple of seconds to sort of. And every time we did that, I don't know how Russell was feeling, but I slowly started to feel just a little bit better every time we did it. So it was still very hard to breathe and very uncomfortable. My throat was so very, very dry. And I was very, very weak. So there was quite a few times, and it was a very slow journey out, like in normal circumstances, like from where we were to the portal, you'd be able to, going downhill, you'd be able to walk out in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it took us nearly 2 hours, like including falling unconscious and stuff. So it was a fair hike, and every so often I had to stop and sort of grab onto the conveyor belt that was right next to us to sort of stabilise myself, because I felt my legs sort of giving out on me with my own weight and Russell's weight. I was trying to hold onto him and take the weight of him as much as I possibly could. And all I remember was saying random things to him, like, think of your wife, think of your kid, because all I was thinking in my head is if he gives up and drops and becomes a dead weight, so to speak, I'm in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done. So I was trying to motivate him in any way possible. And he started, as we started coming out, he started making, saying a few words here and there, but not much. It was very disorientating. Didn't really make sense. But we made our way out, and obviously I'd made contact prior to coming out, and in the hope that once we got to the portal, there might be some people to help us. When we got there, I was hoping that I would see some lights at the end of the tunnels, and we got to the portal, and there was no one there. You can see it on CCTV footage. I've got. You can see me carrying Russell out. And I turn and look down the roadway looking for someone to help us, but there was no one there at all. I'll never forget that feeling first seeing the light at the portal, the light at the end of the tunnel. I was just, that whole time before seeing that light, every so often I'd turn back and look down this dark, black tunnel and thinking, don't blow up again. It was the worst. My hair was like sticking up on the back of my neck, and that just it was really, really eerie feeling. And when I saw that light, I was just like, that was the point where I was like, hey, we just might make this. We might survive this. And we got out, and I got onto the intercom or DAC system that was at the portal and said some bad words and said, get your backsides down here. We need help. So they sent a couple of young lads that I'm not sure if they knew that we were coming out or it was a coincidence, but these couple of young lads came and helped us initially. One fella named Dylan Hutton and another fella, Stephen Wakefield. They're both coal miners now, and they tried to do the best they could, and they were sort of like look like deer in headlights sort of thing. They just sort of didn't know what to do with us. I was trying to get our gear off us so we could sort of breathe a little bit, and then paramedics showed up and they took over. So it was pretty pretty terrible experience, and it's that's pretty much my story about it. And then obviously I got taken away in the ambulance with Russell, and I remember looking in the ute that we were driven back to the ambulance in. It was a paramedics ute. Put on oxygen straight away, and I started falling in and out of consciousness. So did Russell. And I remember seeing about 6 or 7 bloody helicopters in the air. Like, I don't know whose they were, whether they'd be media. I'm sure some of them would be media or something like that. But I just remember seeing multiple helicopters in the air flying around. It was like a movie set. It was the most unreal experience, eh? So and that's that. So yeah.
obviously, I know the story and I know, the basics of what happened, but like it's just the lack of, as you said, to get to that pod, there to be nothing there, for it to be decommissioned, to ring a phone in an emergency and it to go to an answering machine, for there to be no one at the portal entry when you've made a call to the mine manager hours possibly before, if there to be no one.
No, that's right. And I've caught up with these young lads since, like we've had many beers at the pub ever since my shout. And it's even though they didn't do too much physically, they were like, when I'll never forget it, when I first saw them. Like, we didn't know each other, by the way, at the time, and they were just trying to help, and they did what they could, and they were just I remember seeing them, and it was just like I nearly broke down. Like, it was a very weird feeling. It was just like I didn't know what to do or say or how to feel or anything, and they were like, "What the hell do we do?" And luckily, it wasn't too long after that actually emergency services showed up. So at the time, those guys I believe didn't have a hell of a lot of experience. So and they were just doing what they could. So I just remember seeing them and just such a sigh of relief,
Yeah. At what point did you come to and realize just how bad the blast was, how catastrophic what had happened?
Once I had that first breath, once I had that first breath of the atmosphere, I knew it was really, really bad. Like, obviously, being engulfed by this thick white smoke coming at me pretty quickly, I was like, that's not good. That's really bad. But like, it was so much to process, like it was all the stuff that I've explained to you is just happening like this really quick. Like, I've slowed it down to sort of explain it, but this is all happening so quick. And I just, I do remember thinking about walking further in because of my brother. Like, for anyone, I should say, but like, my brother was on my mind the whole time. And if I was thinking that if I was involved, my scenario was like it was, it's only going to be worse the further you go in. And I couldn't stop thinking about him. I couldn't stop thinking about his face, and how I don't want to take anything away from him. How scared he would have been. Because I'm man enough to admit I was packing myself. I was scared. And so, like, he had a far less experience than myself. Not that experience makes you strong. It's just he probably didn't know what the hell was going on. Neither did I. And I was thinking about his face a lot of the time. And I did have that thought about going back into the mine, but I knew that if I'd done that, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. I didn't have the equipment, that we have over here. Had I had the access to Caber, would I have gone further in? I think that I probably would have. So maybe it's a good thing that we didn't have it. I don't know. Like, it's all like hearsay. What would you do? Shoulda, coulda, woulda type scenario. But like, my thought of my brother was very high on my agenda for most of my experience, and it cut me up so much when I had to go right instead of left, because of, as I said, if I'd gone left, I'd be gone. There'd be 2 Rockhouses on that list. So yeah.
Exactly. Obviously, like, you and Russell knew how bad it was down there. Do you think, Helen, do you think the others would do you think it would have been instant? They're obviously being closer to where the blast was. Do you think they would have lasted very long?
If you'd asked me this straight away, which after it all happened, with my limited experience and how naive I was, I've learned so much over the last nearly 19 years in the mines now. if you'd asked me that, like some of the media did, I was hoping, just like some of the family members, that maybe some of them did survive and barricade themselves in an area and were stuck on an airline or something like that, or make it, might be delayed, and they might be making their way out with carrying multiple rescuers. All these scenarios go through your head, but ultimately it was only a couple of hours afterwards, and when things settled down, I was lying in the hospital bed, and I knew that my brother was dead. I knew all the guys were gone, and I said that to my mum when she finally made it over to Greymouth from Christchurch. She asked me that, and she said, "Is Ben alive?" And I just, tears came down my face pretty quickly, and I just said, "Mum, I don't think so. I think he's gone. I hope I'm wrong," is what I said. I hope I'm wrong, but I think he's gone. So, there's no way you can survive that. It's with the fans being off and the atmosphere that is left behind after an explosion. It's not breathable. I'm pretty confident that the way that the mine was set up, that any of this natural ventilation that I'm talking about that was drawing back up to the mine didn't actually make it to any of those guys, because it would have diverted to the vent shaft that was further out than them. So I was in that natural path of that draw. So that drew all the bad atmosphere away from me, but it wouldn't have in my opinion, it wouldn't have got to them. It would have diverted up the vent shaft, and they would have been further in the mine. So they would have got that atmosphere that it happened when it initially blew up, and it would have stayed as thick as it would be like letting off in a small room a fire extinguisher and then closing the door. There's no way for it to disperse.
Exactly.
So I don't think it would have been too long, and they would have succumbed to the atmosphere, and I'm hoping just gone to sleep.
Yeah.
And just passed out. So
there's
a lot of speculation. You ask this expert, and everyone's got their own bloody theories, but in my head, I experienced what I experienced. I saw firsthand what had happened, and that's my most plausible best scenario, is that they were exposed to what I was exposed to, provided that they weren't too close to the actual source of the ignition.
Yeah.
And they just succumbed to the atmosphere and went to sleep.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, we're still talking about Pike River today, not only because it was just a catastrophic, horrid disaster, but because of everything that didn't happen in the lead up to it and everything that went wrong. So for those who don't know the story too well, what happened in the hours, the days afterwards? I know we heard that, your mum was out there, Anna was out there waiting, hoping that they would rescue the guys. They were being told that, there was a good chance they were okay because they would have found their way to a pod. But we know
it's pretty disgusting of the some of the management team, the way that, and I'm sorry, like the police have been fairly good with me over the years, but like some of the police at the time, how they handled it, how they handled the victims' families, giving them all this false hope, and that, like it would have been a better scenario for them to just rip the Band-Aid off, so to speak, quickly, and say, look, it's highly likely that they're not going to make it if they haven't made it out within like an hour or two. High chance they're not coming out. Like the mine wasn't massive. If they're not out within a couple of hours, and that's been very generous, very high chance they're not coming out. But they didn't do that. They gave all this false hope to the families to keep them calm and sort of try and control the situation when all they knew. And I've got it under good authority that they were up there already planning recovery an hour, 2 hours after 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 it all happened. Not a recovery in the sense that they're going to not a rescue, a recovery. So two different things. And so, but they were coming down to these meetings and telling the families that, especially like Peter Whittle in particular, he was classed as the expert on at the time, and because he was the mine manager for most of the time. Doug was only the mine manager for around 8 to 10 months. And he was the one addressing the media. He was the one addressing the families, and he was the one feeding. I'm only assuming feeding all this information to the police. This could happen. They could be okay. They could be doing this. They could be doing that. We should get in there and we should make a plan and do. Try and save them. Da 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 da. Like the man. No matter what anyone thinks of him, the man's been in the industry for. At the time, it was more than 20 years. He knew who the guys weren't.
Exactly.
But he was sort of trying to dig himself out of a pretty sticky situation, and doing a real poor job about it.
Yeah.
So for 5 days, led the families to believe that some of their boys might be okay, and that they were planning a rescue. And it wasn't until 5 days later that the second explosion hit that all hope was lost. But all hope was lost a couple of hours after. But that's what they said in the media, and that's what they said to the families. And I was at that meeting. I went out to the mine that very same day of the second explosion. I took one of the boys' wives out there because she was freaking out. And she wanted to go out there, but she didn't want to go alone. So I took her out there. She asked me to, and I took her out there to just show her around. And we saw a couple of the robots that the army was preparing to send in there. And we asked the Mines Rescue a few questions, and the police asked me a few questions and things like that. And so I don't know, it was something that she needed to do to process some things. And so that's what we did. And on the way back to town, which is about a 45-minute drive, the second explosion happened, but we didn't know. And so when we got back to town, we got a text message saying urgent meeting. And so she wasn't like a people person, and so she didn't go to that meeting, and which is understandable. She couldn't deal with it. So I said to her, I'll let you know what the meetings is about afterwards, and I'll send you a text type thing. And little did I know it was the all hell had broken loose type meeting, and there was no possibility of them surviving. And obviously, rightfully so, the families absolutely lost their shit. And it was very, very weird when we walked into the hall and it was lined right around with police, shoulder to shoulder. And I was like, this is not good.
Wow.
They brought reinforcements in because they thought that people were going to kick off, and a few people did. Kick off. There wasn't like violence or anything, but there was a lot of screaming.
You wouldn't blame them.
Yeah. I as soon as he said what he said, I actually got up. I kicked the chair in front of me, and I marched out, and I just went into the hallway. I sort of broke down, even though I already knew what it was like. Hearing it and hearing that emotion from all the other families, I was just like, I can't deal with this. And something that I found particularly disgusting is as soon as I walked out, I was swarmed by about 30 media personnel. It was, I was surrounded. Like it was like 2 or 3 deep, and I don't know how many cameras around me. And my uncle actually like sort of barged his way in and sort of grabbed me and dragged me out. I answered a quick couple of questions, but I was just like, I didn't know what to do. There was cameras everywhere, and I'm just like, what do I do? And they were just like, I've just heard this news, and I just was so angry, and I just wanted out. And my uncle actually came in and just sort of dragged me out, and I couldn't believe the media. Like they're just after a story, eh? Exactly. Not all of them. I won't say all of them. There were some good ones, but for the most part, it was pretty disgusting how some of them reacted.
Oh, there's certainly a very big difference between being a journalist myself. There's a difference between being a journalist who's, ethical and there for the right reasons, and one
Yeah,
who's there just for that headline grab to get that story, to make a
yeah,
boss happy,
yeah,
to sell more of something. And that disgusts me that people in my industry do that. I just could never, like, it's just to prey on somebody's emotions and to harass. It's disgusting.
To see stories in the future from then on,
Yeah.
like that doesn't have to have anything to do with mining. When I see people that are in distress on the TV,
Yep.
because I've experienced it myself now,
Yeah.
I feel for them. Like I go, I know exactly what you're going through, and I feel for you. And I just pray that hopefully that they're being looked after. But I'm pretty confident that a lot of the time that they're not. That, there is a lot of media out there that just do not care about anyone's feelings, and it brought a new light to the way I see media. Even though I speak to them like yourself from time to time, as long as you're respectful and don't be rude and pushy, I'm happy to talk. But it's just like initially when it was all going down, man, I experienced some.
Oh, I can imagine.
I won't swear, but yeah,
I can imagine.
Yeah, some eggs. So
yeah, exactly. I've done what do they call it? I don't know if they still call it the death knock, but I remember there was a horrible house fire in the Upper Hunter. Kids had died. It was awful, and I had to go because it was the job for the day.
Yeah.
And I hated myself. Like, you've got neighbors who are emotional and yelling at you because you're part of a pack that are just there for a headline grab, and I'm in my head going, I don't even want to be here. Like, this is disgusting.
I had to change my phone number
Don't surprise
because when I got out, not even 24 hours, maybe 15 hours, 18 hours after I got out, I turned my phone on. I literally had about, I don't know, 100 voice messages from people I've never spoken to in my life. Like, blah, blah from this TV station, blah, blah from this radio station, blah, blah from international news, from CNN. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like a heap of Aussie, heap of New Zealand, heap of American. It was the most surreal experience, and I just didn't know what to do, so I just turned my phone off.
Exactly.
I didn't answer any of them. I was just
no,
pretty wild.
And I'm sure you would have experienced that again over the years. There was the Royal Commission, obviously, into what happened. For anyone who doesn't know, what did that find, and what sort of did they uncover over the years that did go wrong?
I don't want to speak out of turn. I can't give you exactly what the outcome of the Royal Commission was. I did my part, and then I drifted away from it. And I don't want to say things that are inaccurate and false and things like that. But roughly, I think there was a few. There was recommendations that came out of what happened, and there was fines to be laid on Peter Whittle, but for some reason, and if you need to find this information out, I'm sure you can. But
there's plenty on Google.
For some reason that they weren't laid onto him; they were dropped. And that's why the families, my mum and Anna, and the other families have been fighting, because they think it's unjust that no one's been held accountable. So Mum and Anna, being incredibly stubborn like they are, have chosen not to give up over these years, much to I wouldn't say disgust, but the disapproval of myself and my other brother. Just simply not because we don't want justice or anything like that, but we could see that it was tearing them apart. It was engulfing their whole lives, and it has done for the last nearly 16 years. But what they've done and what they've achieved over the years is nothing short of, I believe, a miracle, and I'm very proud Mum and Anna for that, and the rest of the families that were involved. I keep saying Mum and Anna, and I feel bad about saying, because it wasn't just them. They just sort of became like Bernie Monk was the one of the fathers of one of the victims, and he was like the family's spokesperson at first.
Yeah.
But then some things happened, and there was a bit of division between the families for a little bit, and then they sort of Mum and Anna started their own sort of thing, and had like they started their protesting, and that's how it sort of came about. So even though they want everyone that's involved to have a part in it, they were sort of semi took over as the faces of what was going on, and have done to this day. And they've just not given up. They've just been proper pests, I suppose you call it. Just to government, to police, to whoever needs harassing until they get the answers that they want.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, the discussions, heated discussions, I might say, that I've had with my mum over the years, and Anna, just sort of like trying to, because it's every time because I've tried to help them over the years and that, and every time it gets brought up, it's like ripping open like a wound,
the wound open again,
and it's just I want to help, and I want to do my part, but it's also hard because I'm trying to process it and move on and stuff, and it's just I feel for them because they lost, one lost a son and one lost a husband, and they can't heal either because they have no outcome. They just it's just like these lads died. They went to work to provide for their families, and they didn't come home, and it's just sort of like, oh well, damn, and it's just that there's no one taking responsibility for it. No one's been held accountable. No, like the government have just gone, oh well, they felt bad about it, and they threw a heap of money at it to try and recover the place and things, but which is fantastic. But it's just sort of like, couldn't figure it out. We'll just seal her up and be done with it. And it's just no one to this day, nearly 16 years later, has even stood up and gone, oh, we stuffed up. We made mistakes, and we are so sorry.
Yeah,
we're so sorry. And I'll tell you, it's too little, too late now. But do you know how far that would have gone if someone of authority that worked for Pike or the government or something like that gone, something's messed up here, and we've screwed something up or multiple things up, and we apologise. But no one, not one person, has said sorry. That it matters,
Yeah,
and that's the heart. That's really cuts all the families deep. So,
and it's that closure too. Like, how can you get closure when all those loose ends are not tied up? When there's basically been next to no recovery of the boys, like.
Yeah, well, there's been no recovery of the lads. It's been recovery of the stone drift, and some machinery and some electrical equipment and stuff like that. So there's they were hoping that, as gruesome as it sounds, they were hoping they were going to find evidence of guys in that drift trying to potentially make their way out, but I don't believe they ever did. Don't quote me on that. Obviously, it's still a pending investigation. I haven't been told anything, but it's just like, I think we would have heard about it if they did,
Exactly.
So, it's frustrating, but I appreciate that they tried, but I know it costs a lot of money, but we still don't know what happened, and we still don't have the guys back. And it's now such a long time that it's their grave, that's their site. And people ask me, if I had an opportunity, would I want them out? And like, I'm sort of torn now. But at the end of the day, I still want my brother's remains so we can put them properly to rest. So do the rest of the families, but. it's a hard one, eh? Like they deemed it too unsafe. They got to a point, they ran it, they spent a lot of money getting to that point, and they deemed it too unsafe. But it was just, it all came down to money. Like Mines Rescue went in there and said, with enough risk assessments and enough like expertise involved and equipment involved, meaning money, resources, enough resources, we could slowly reclaim the mine. But they just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it just, that brings all the conspiracies into play and like why and things like that. And it plays with people's heads, understandably. So,
oh gosh, yeah.
It's sort of like you get to a point, you like hope, pray, pray, and it's just like, nah, that'll do. We'll seal her up. So it's pretty terrible, but it's just, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I know as you said, the investigation is still ongoing, and hopefully there's some sort of end or a resolution or a something, before the end of the year. Or
I've heard that so many times. Like I kept in touch with the police, and as I said, that like throughout this ordeal, me personally, the police have been really good with me. They've given me information and as much as they can, obviously. I've been interviewed by them, I don't know how many times. And I've tried to help as best as I can. But they've like, whenever I contact them, they're very accommodating and very helpful, but as best as much as they can be. But I've heard people say, whether it be through the media or hearsay, we should have an outcome by the end of this year. We should have an outcome in 3 months. We should have an outcome in 6 months. And it's just every year, it just sort of like, it's beyond a joke now. It's 16 years.
Exactly.
Like, make a decision. Come on. Exactly. I understand they're trying to gather as much evidence as they possibly can.
How much more can you gather at this point?
Short of going in there and actually making it a crime scene, like a forensic crime scene, like how much more time do you need? Like it needs to be put to bed. And I want it to be put to bed. Like, I'm trying to move on, and that's why I'm still in the industry. It's a big part because I'm choosing to move forward with my life and not hide in fear and all that stuff. Yeah. I'm living my life how I want to live it, and being a coal miner is what I want to do.
Yeah,
it's not without its challenges, mind you, but like I choose to do it and I want to do it, and it's just that's why I'm trying to move forward with my life. So
exactly,
and try to teach people and learn. Hopefully people learn from my story, like even in a small way. I've had young fellas when I've been talking come to me afterwards, Facebook message me or contact me through a text message or something like that. They've got my number from somebody and saying that my chats have impacted them and really it's really sent things home and it's changed the way they do things in their job. And just one person making that contact to me is worth it. Like if I've changed someone's perspective on safety and standards in mining, then it's the distress and things that I get off these chats is it's worth it because someone's learning from it. So
that's exactly right. And it was literally the year after you moved across the ditch up to Queensland, started working at Ensham Mine and back underground. I'm sure a lot of people looked at you like you were nuts. Your wife probably thinks you're crazy. Yeah. But as you said, it's what you want. It's you want to move forward. It's what you want to do. And you've been sharing your story. And
I decided, as I just said, to continue my career in the mines under much heated discussion with my family and how crazy it was. But at the end of the day, they knew they weren't going to change my mind, and I chose to face it head on. And I went to a mine. I don't know if I should say the mine's name. I don't want to upset them. So, but I went to a mine in Queensland, and a couple of months after starting, they had a bit of an incident, and I was sitting in a loader coming out that we were doing in the middle of a wall move, and there was a fella bringing a piece of machinery down, a chock for part of the wall, and so obviously I had to wait for the traffic light to change. And while I was sitting there, just in by this intersection, the roof started to crack and make some pretty funky sounds, and it started to rain, and I saw a few of the plates sort of bend and like do some funky stuff, and the ribs started popping, and I quickly realised that the roof's coming in, and I sort of was like looking at the roof, and while this chock was coming down the road, and I was waving at him, tooting my horn to try and like say, go, 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 get out of the way, get out of the way. He thought I was just being a silly bugger, I think, just like being silly with my horn, waving my light at him, like just being funny. And he just kept going. I think he tooted his horn back at me or whatever, and I floored it up the drift, and I got about 200 meters away, and that whole intersection that I was just sitting under completely fell in, and it was a massive fall. From what I've been told, it was like it went up about 60 odd meters or so, and it was around 60 to 100 meters in length. Put it this way, if I'd not taken off when I did, it would have crushed my 30 or 40 ton loader to a pancake, and there wouldn't be much left of me. It was a massive fall. It closed that mine's production for, it was like 4 to 6 months. So that happened a couple of months after I got back in the industry, believe it or not. And I remember driving out of the drift, and this big plume of like dust and stuff came up towards me, and I had my hand on my rescuer again, believe it or not. And I was like, not again. I actually said that to myself, not again, no way. All the lights went out in the drift, and my ears popped from the pressure, and I got out of and then I was looking at my loader, because the loaders that we were operating at the time had a tendency to overheat, and I was just like saying, don't overheat, don't overheat, don't overheat, and I just kept driving out, and I got out, and there was a big alarm going off. They knew something had happened, but they didn't know what, and I told them that there was a massive fall, something really bad's happened, and I believe a big fall's happened. They managed to get everybody out. Everyone was safe, but when they realised that it was me, I was one of the guys, one of the other two fellas that was like very, very nearly got squashed to a pancake. They were just like, "Oh, you're joking." I couldn't believe it. So they checked me over with the medic, and I was physically fine. I wasn't hurt, but it was a very, very close call. And I don't know, it was maybe something, someone telling me, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing this for a job.
Did it make you question it?
Yeah, maybe question it for a couple of days. And I was like, nah. I don't know. I shouldn't laugh at it. It was pretty serious, but it was just, again, I was like, oh, well, I was lucky, and I'm just, it was one of those things, like, sometimes the roof, it shouldn't, but sometimes the roof falls in when you're in an underground coal mine, and for whatever reason, and it's one of the risks that you take as a coal miner, and the risks of going underground, and I downright refuse to let anything scare me down there. Like I'm always on edge, and I don't take things for granted, and but I think it's sort of from a safety perspective, makes me a better miner, because I don't mess around with safety. Like it's something that I hold in high regard, and I respect. So it's it sort of just keeps me on my toes, and keeps, I've got some real life experiences that keeps me thinking that, don't do that. Just, do it properly. And it happens all the time. So it's a good way to sort of keep you on your toes, and keep things moving in the correct way, I suppose, keep your standards high. So
exactly. And you've just been doing some mines rescue training
Yep.
Was,
Yep.
everything you've been through and being in the industry, what prompted you to go, okay, I want to be a part of that and be here,
Um,
be there if I need to be?
because I got a lot of respect for any mines rescue. It doesn't matter where they are in the world.
100%. Yep.
Those men and women go into the firing line if need be, if required, and they attempted to for myself, and I've got a lot of respect for any mines rescue. I wanted to do this 10 years ago, but
Yep.
just employment opportunities didn't allow it for myself at the time, and I suppose some employers maybe were a little bit like, I don't know if I want you going into the firing line of any major situation.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but like I was held off from doing it many years ago. But I finally got my opportunity. I just wish I'd done it
Yeah.
12 years ago when I was a bit
Yeah.
younger. The old fitness wasn't the best. I wasn't the best at it in my team, but I learned a lot. And
Yeah.
as I said, I've got a lot of respect for Mines Rescue and anyone that is part of it. So it was amazing and a really great experience. And anyone that's in the industry, I highly recommend that you give it a crack and put your hand up if you ever get that opportunity. Take it with both hands.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I'm also currently doing my deputies as well. I'm doing my
Okay.
deputies ticket, so it's helping me. It
Yeah.
has helped me to sort of to along the way with that. Learning quite a bit about gas and ventilation and stuff like that. So yeah,
I mean, the skills that you learn in mine rescue, we just had a underground comp down here at Malabar a couple of weeks ago, and I went and watched the teams do their scenarios underground.
yep,
And, watching them work together and get out of these scenarios and help the people who they're helping and that sort of thing, it's incredible. And it's so good to know that there are teams like that on sites that if the absolute worst thing happens, they are going to be there.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's what every family, every friend who has someone who works in mining wants to know, that their loved one's going to go to work and come home at the end of the day. And if something happens, the best possible people are going to be there
yeah,
to help them.
yeah. And there's some very experienced and very
Yeah.
very very good experience out there that is part of this organisation that will like the best men for the job will be put there if
Exactly.
anything does happen. So
Yeah.
no, so sorry, I should say best men and women because there's a lot of women in it now too.
Yeah.
And it's just it's very humbling and learning that and seeing that firsthand is it sort of puts you a bit of light on the situation as a worker in the industry. So
Yeah.
and it's great to be part of it. Like my journey in Mines Rescue has literally only just begun, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's going to be a long standing membership. So yeah, and
Yeah.
I'll learn lots from a lot of people along the way. So
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
And I guess to end off the episode, what is some advice you would give to any young person who's just starting out in the industry, anyone who's been in the industry for a while when it comes to safety?
Don't mess around with it. Don't take it lightly when whoever is talking to you about safety and standards and stuff like that. Take it on board, um, and don't forget what you're doing for a living, especially underground. We're dealing with some high risk situations, and to really acknowledge that and don't forget it and don't be complacent. Complacency is a killer. And I see a lot of young people come through and they just think they're mucking about a little bit. They're just doing a regular job and they're getting paid really well, and they don't wonder why they're getting paid really well. It's because it's dangerous, and if you mess around, you're going to find out the hard way that what can happen, and I hope that never happens again. But the reality is, there's a high chance of it. Like it is a high risk job, and to really just don't take that lightly. Keep your standards high. Learn, listen, and focus on what's going on. don't mess around with safety. If you get opportunities, another thing I say in my presentations, it's a requirement to practice with emergency gear like CABA units and practice with mock self-rescuers and stuff like that. When you do those mock scenarios, when your mind gives you that opportunity to do some training, take it on board. Don't take the piss out of it. Pretend like it's serious, you're in a real situation, because that's your opportunity to learn how to use that gear. That's something that I didn't have that opportunity at Pike to really refresh on how to use the gear if and when you need it. And so when you do your scenarios, take it on board and just really, if you got to do it over and over again, well, that's your training time. That really listen to the experienced people that are trying to show you how to use it, and don't mess about. Keep your standards high. That just you're getting paid good money. You get paid by the hour. Do your job and do it safe, as safe as you can. So you can go home to your families and enjoy that good money. That's why we're all doing it. At the end of the day, people are passionate about mining, but at the end of the day, we're here to make good money. Yep. And you want to be able to go home to your families and enjoy it. So just stay alert.
Yeah, exactly. Mate, thank you so much for having a chat to me and for always being willing, it sounds like, to share your story and share that message of safety. It's so, so, so important. So thank you.
All good. No drama. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Digging Deeper with At the Coalface. You can download more episodes of the podcast on all your favourite podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on YouTube, Amazon Music, all the usual places. Make sure you leave us a rating and a review. We'd love to hear what you thought. And if you do have a story idea or something you'd like us to talk about on the podcast, please send me an email, jess@thecoalface.net.au. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll be back next time for another episode of Digging Deeper with At the Coalface.